As a sliver of cold aurora in the deep night of the pre-Christian era slanted across the heavens of Asgard, spilling over the unsullied marble pillars of Breidablik, the air was steeped in the faint scent of ash wood and the bittersweet aroma of frost dampened by night dew. Within a chamber shrouded by heavy velvet curtains, where the wind from the distant Ginnungagap could be heard, a man of exquisite beauty, his eyes reflecting a profound sense of universal desolation, sat in stillness, opening his empty hands. He was not basking in the adulation of the gods. Instead, within the sanctuary of his mind, sharpened by centuries of facing prophecy, he chewed over the philosophical metaphors of fate regarding inevitability. He was Baldur, the son of Odin and Frigg, the gentlest god of light in Norse mythology. A man who foresaw the end amidst myriad blessings and exiled himself to anxiety for centuries. This is a chronicle of how restraint erupts into power, and how solitude is transmutated into nobility. The genesis of Baldur's life was imbued with a mosaic-like splendor characteristic of the mythic world, a sacred foundation woven from gold and runic laws beneath the golden, vaulted domes of Asgard. As the firstborn son born into the place of light, destined to be the embodiment of goodness, he inherited a microcosm that was ruthlessly cold, governed by sacred contracts and the complex gambits of fate. In libraries crimsoned by the glow of starlight, he learned to perceive the cosmic structures hidden behind every vanishing point. He rejected shallow orations in public squares, turning instead to the embrace of natural philosophy and celestial laws, realms capable of measuring the true breadth of the soul. This near-pathological pursuit of existential truth became the first incurable fold in his psyche. If his early years as crown prince were the tempering of his will, then the period following his first dream of the shadow of death was the practical crucible that pushed Baldur's aesthetics of waiting to its absolute zenith. He overthrew the prevailing blind optimism of the gods, resolutely transforming the oath of all things sought by his mother, Frigg, into an ultimate moral experiment. He chose long-term restraint over endless martial defense. In those quiet nights, through a ruthlessly precise calculation of the world map and the promises of living beings, he issued silent commands that stabilized the psychological order of Asgard. In those moments, Baldur was the most sober and solitary artisan of the North, accepting every mockery from Loki with silence. His radical focus rendered him like a marble bell tower, solitary and soaring, yet indestructible. The summit of power in the eyes of the wise is often manifested as the penetration of truth. Baldur gradually realized that when he remained unharmed by blades and stones in the gods' testing game, he gained not only stability but a nihility that saw through the rise and fall of all things. He discovered that grand divine ideals, once thought invincible, turned into a fragility more powerful than any curse when faced with a tiny plant called mistletoe. This transition, from divine son back to watcher, was fraught with intellectual struggle. He wrote in his diary, "I once believed I was building a home, now I find I am merely searching for a point of convergence within the scarred fissures of marble, where the soul no longer falls." This expansive clarity became his hardest armor in his final moments. The final mythic season of Baldur was spent in a state of profound solemnity and a silence illuminated by the radiance of a sage. By then, the god of light's body had become remarkably weightless from years of mental exhaustion. His majestic robe now hung loosely upon his slender frame. He understood that his gentle era was drawing to its close, and that he, the witness of order, would soon be buried in the dust of legend. In his final conscious moments, he requested to look one last time at the grey mist drifting over the canopy of Yggdrasil. He closed his eyes, tracing a final arc of completion across his chest with hands that had held 10,000 contracts and turned 10,000 scrolls. The north wind carried away the final sigh of this great hermit, marking the official end of the dawn of reason. Even today, millennia after the myths faded, the name Baldur remains the sole sanctuary for many insomniac seekers in the deep of night. What he left behind was not a towering monument of triumph, but a spiritual template of self-restraint and civilizational vigil. He teaches us that even if the entire world besieges you with turmoil, the order of your inner self remains governed by your perception of truth. In absolute shadow, he maintained absolute sobriety. Amidst absolute temptation, he held onto absolute logic. Beneath the ruins worn smooth by history, he maintains that posture of leaning his head to listen, as if still soothing this increasingly restless and anxious world. His life was an intellectual long march seeking sacred rhythms amidst the chaotic dust of the world. Baldur's story thus draws to a slow close amidst the fading whispers of the tides in Asgard. He was never an opportunist who bartered for power. He was merely a weary soul who steadfastly refused to compromise with mediocrity. Inner tranquility is your only true and eternal refuge. Just as he did during the coldest winter nights, guarding a flickering candle and searching for a fulcrum of existence through the tip of his quill. Please believe that in every person's life, there is a Breidablik of their own, a private space for dialogue with a self that requires no outward explanation. Tonight's story is over, the winds have calmed, and the world outside has fallen silent. May Baldur's serenity and vastness become the softest feather in your dreams, carrying you to the farthest, most tranquil shore of the soul. Good night, and may sweet dreams be with you.